Welcome to Garden Wise Adventures. My name is Malie, and today is an exciting day. Today is the day I finally get to start my early spring seeds. It's mid-February, and I really am excited to take you along for that adventure. But the only issue is that starting seeds is video number 13 on my Beginning Gardener series, and we still have yet to do video number 12. So before we get into seed starting, we're going to do video number 12, which talks about a lot of the things you're going to need to be successful in starting seeds. So the last video, video number 11, we talked about lights, racks, fans, and things like that. Today we're going to talk about pots, potting soil, watering implements, trays, and all the really important things that will help you be a success. So let's get into this video, and we're going to start out talking about pots. Now, when it comes to pots, there are so many different things that you can use. You can go from really cheap. For example, this is a used pot that I got from a garden store when I bought my onion seeds last year. There's egg cartons that, well, I guess this is one of the more expensive things that you can buy right now. But I don't like egg cartons as much as I like some of the other things. Egg cartons, you can put the soil in here, water them, plant them out into the garden, straight into the soil with these. But I've found in areas like mine where there's not a lot of moisture, the egg cartons don't rot down fast enough to release the roots of the plants. But in a pinch, these will do. You can't let the seedlings get very big, but you can use them if you would like. Another thing you can use is old cups. Now, I don't like to use the clear ones. This is one that I used for starting fig cuttings, but you can see that there's holes in here. You can put the holes in this any way you would like. What I used is a nail set that I heated up on my stove. So I used heat to put these holes in here, but you can do it with a screwdriver or a drill, whatever you want to do. So the clear ones aren't as good as the red plastic ones. So this one does not have holes in it yet, but you can use plastic cups to start seeds. You can use any plastic container you'd like. Just make sure to put holes in the bottom. These are really amazing. They're pretty flimsy, so they're basically a one-use pot. I've used them to start my mass amounts of basil for a project that I'm doing, and they've worked really well. These were, I got 100 of these pots, and they were $21. I'll put the Amazon link up on the screen, but these worked really well. You can save old pots from the nursery. You can use these kind of plastic pots, and a lot of these are free or reused items, and they work really well. Now, this is another pot that I really like to use when I up-pot my plants. It's a little large for just seed starting, but I really like this one. And I got this one on Greenhouse Megastore, and they're not that expensive, and I've used these for about 4 years. The one thing that I have learned with them, though, is not to leave them out in the sun when they're empty because they will warp. Now we're going to move to the most expensive pots I got. These are from Epic Gardener. These are his Epic 6L trays, and they work amazing. These are the strongest pots I've ever seen. They've got a large hole in the bottom and slits up the sides. So it's easy to remove the plants out of your pots. And he's also got the larger 4-inch size. Now these are the taller ones, and I really like these for plants I don't want to up-pot later. This one came from Home Depot. You can basically use these for 1 or 2 seasons. They're pretty flimsy, but they're really cheap at Home Depot. And they come in these trays. Now, this is a tray that I got at Greenhouse Megastore, but the trays that you get at Home Depot that have those inserts in them are a little more flimsy, but they're basically the same size, and I've used those trays for several seasons in a row. Now, there is one other way of starting seeds that I'm not going to really cover here because it's not one of my favorite ways, and that's with soil blocking. I bought these soil blocks probably 20 years ago, 25 years ago, way back when maybe it was when they first started getting popular. And I used this method for several years, and it just really wasn't my favorite way to start seeds. I know there's a lot of people who love it, but they were hard for me to water. They were hard for me to move up into larger block sizes. And it just never really worked that well for me. But if you want to try it out, definitely do your research and see if it's a way for you to start seeds. So let me tell you a little bit more about trays. You can use just about anything for trays. They come with holes or without holes. I always get the ones with holes, and I put all of my plants in them. You can see that just about every single one of my plants is in one of those trays. What I use them for is for bottom watering. So when I want to water my plants, I just pour water in here, let the plants soak them up through the holes in the bottom of the pots, and that's how I water my plants. It's a lot quicker that way, and it's pretty good for the plants. Now, I don't think it's any better than top watering, but it is faster and easier. Another reason to use a tray is to be able to carry and transport your pots. When you have a lot of seedlings like I do, it's really difficult to carry them back and forth wherever you need to go with them one by one. So a good tray, a good sturdy tray, is really useful. Another thing that it does is it contains the mess. Now, to go along with mess containment, let's talk about this tray a little bit. This tray is one that I've seen Laura with Garden Answer use. And I actually found this one at a local nursery. It was at Sun River Nursery, and I have really loved this tray. I can put potting soil in here and mix it. It fits a full-size tray, and it's just been extremely useful, especially since I do a lot of my potting indoors. Now, before I had this, I would use buckets like this one. Let me show you this one right here. I would use buckets like this one to pot everything up in. Now, I've used all sorts of different trays. You can actually even dedicate one of your cookie trays for that if you would like. But there's various different things you can use for mess containment. Now, the next thing I wanted to talk about was humidity domes. This humidity dome was purchased on Greenhouse Megastore. You can also get a humidity dome and tray as a set at Home Depot or Walmart. They come in sets with the little seed starting inserts in them, and they're not very expensive, and they work beautifully. I'm still using humidity domes from those that I purchased years ago. Here's another type of humidity dome. It goes on the top of this little tray right here. This tray is one that I bought at Greenhouse Megastore, and I'm using it to start my succulents in. But it's just a smaller tray. Now, I haven't found this really all that necessary, but with this humidity dome, you can actually adjust the amount of moisture you allow in and out of the dome. These are not really all that necessary, but this one did come with it, and sometimes I do use it. Now, you don't have to spend a ton of money on humidity domes. You can actually use plastic wrap. Now, the only thing with using plastic wrap is you have to find a way to be able to prop that plastic wrap up so it's not laying on top of your seedlings. But if you can figure that out, you can use plastic wrap or even those little clear grocery bags. Now, the last thing I wanted to talk about is watering. Now, this is one of the systems that I really like to use. This is I call it an automatic waterer, but it's really not automatic because you have to add the water every time it runs out. But this system utilizes a capillary mat. This is a capillary mat that soaks up water. You fill the tray with water. You've got these little stands underneath the mat. The mat hangs down into the water, and then it soaks up the water. And as the soil that's in your little pot touches that mat, it soaks the water up. And that's one of the most efficient ways I've found to water seedlings. Now, one thing that you need to be careful of is don't fill your trays with water until your seedlings are up and have at least one true leaf on that. I found that you can end up with damping off if you add the water too early. Now, another thing I'd like to use are these little water bottles. If you poke holes in the lids, you can actually squirt water in a gentle stream out on your seedlings. When you have little tiny seedlings, you don't want to be pouring water out of water containers like this because you're going to wash your seeds right out of the soil. This is another container I love to use for my larger plants. This is just a regular drink container that has been repurposed to a watering container in my grow room. One of the most useful containers I have is a spray bottle. This gives the best stream of water for seedlings. Now, when I have larger plants, it's a little too slow for watering larger plants. When the plants get larger, I just use my other waterers. But this waters seedlings beautifully. It doesn't disturb them, it doesn't wash them out of the soil, and if you take the time, it will wet everything down as far as you need it. So those are the basics that you need for seed starting, except for your seed starting soil. Now, you need to be really careful about what soil you use. There's a lot of seed starting mixes on the market, and you can use any one of them as long as it's for seed starting. Now this is the Espoma seed starting mix. I've had a lot of success with this. I've also had a lot of success with the Miracle-Gro seed starting mix. Now the one issue with the Miracle-Gro seed starting mix is it does sometimes contain fungus gnats. The way I found to get rid of those is to put a small amount of soil in the bottom of a bucket and pour boiling water over it. And then repeat that process until you have enough soil to start your seeds. Another thing you need to make sure of is not to add fertilizer to your soil mix until your seedlings have their first true leaves. You need a very fine material so the seeds don't have any trouble coming up out of the soil, and you don't need fertilizer because that might burn the roots. So hopefully this is helpful. These are all the things that you need for seed starting, and now we can actually move on to the seed starting. That's going to be our next video, and I hope you're as excited as I am. Now if you have any questions, please leave comments below. If I've left anything out, please also comment down below. So hopefully this video has been helpful. If it has been helpful, I hope you like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and go have a wonderful garden adventure.